Hey everybody, and welcome to the Doctors of Running virtual roundtable, where we, three doctors of physical therapy, discuss the art and the science to the stuff that we're putting onto our feet. Onto our feet. Okay. It's getting late. Anyway, today on the docket is the Reebok Symmetros, a new daily trainer from them, a higher stack shoe. Couple of quick specs on this guy before we jump into our reviews. We've all been able to bring this shoe now through the paces, and we're excited to talk about it. This shoe it's a new daily trainer from them. It's weighing in for men's at 8.6 ounces, and it has a 9mm drop. If you listen to our previous episode, you heard a little bit from Casey on how they decided to keep kind of the platform similar to what the Forever Floatride Energy has with the 9mm drop, but just put a little bit more stack underneath. And it also has the Floatride Energy foam, which is an expanded PU, right? EPU foam.
Yeah.
Yes, it's getting late. Maybe I'll minimize my talking during this episode. Anyway, so let's dive in. Let's talk about the fit of this shoe. What did you guys think of the upper, the heel, all that stuff? Pros and cons.
So it does fit a little bit more snug than at least I felt initially. I definitely felt a little bit of the heel counter. There's none of that on the outside, so this actually expands pretty nicely. But I could feel this just a little bit, but honestly, within half a mile that disappeared. Even wearing thick socks, I felt that pressure. I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to fit too short. And it's fine. It seemed the upper, again, runs just a little bit more on the snug side for me, but still disappears after like half a mile or so, and it's very comfortable.
Yeah. For me, I thought it fit true to size. I agree with the toe guard up front. Very minimal on the sides. I didn't really feel it up front. I thought that it fit pretty well overall. The main thing for me that I was a little concerned about, and I was curious to see your thoughts on it, but then we talked about it and it wasn't really a problem, but was that kind of rigid heel counter right on the side, on the posterior part.
Yep.
And that one part, though, that did, I think, disrupt me a little bit, but this was after long miles. It was not during any kind of normal daily mileage type of runs. Was that extension on the counter that goes into the midfoot. Yeah. I don't know why. I would feel a little bit of pressure right on that after like 10, 11 miles of running in it.
On the medial side or lateral side?
Medial side. Yeah, on the medial side. So for our listeners, medial means the inside for most people, like right in there. Besides that, I mean, I thought it fit pretty dang well. I thought it was awesome, and that was not a deal breaker by any means.
I actually did enjoy that, by the way. And I'm the guy who needs a little bit more stability. I did enjoy the fact the counter came a little bit more forwards, and I think that helped stabilize me a little bit more. And surprisingly, despite sometimes when these heel counters only come up halfway, as David mentioned, that has given me problems in the past, but there's so much cushioning up front here, it totally offsets it, and I didn't even notice the heel counter. So it's super comfortable.
Yeah, I would say true to size as well. I think that it is a little bit more snug. I mean, I think the upper locks down really, really well. I think in comparison to kind of the Forever Floatride Energy line, those seem to be a little bit longer. This one was not. This is definitely not on the longer end. For me, it was true to size. I didn't have any issues there. The one thing that I did feel, the heel counter has sorry, not the heel counter, but the inside, there's like a padded rim. And in step and feel, I could kind of feel that rim just above the calcaneus or the heel bone. But once I got running, it didn't bother me at all. But just sliding the shoe on, I could kind of feel that pushing a little bit because it's padded up top. Yeah. And then firm on the bottom, I could feel that transition in standing, but not when I was running. I did think it was the most breathable upper that they have between their trainers. I thought I liked the Panthea upper, or Panthea, but I really liked how breathable this upper was. It's simple, it's really airy, and then it locks down super well. So I really thought it fit well for me, and it expands well through the toe box as well, because even on, I took it 18 miles yesterday, and any sort of swelling expansion of the foot, I had no problems at all. No hot spots, no irritability. I think the other thing that's interesting about the fit is there's the sock liner that they put in here has a little extension up the medial side, which almost acts like kind of an EVA rim. It's not as firm as the rims you see on like Hoka shoes or whatever, but I was wondering too, David, if that's what you ended up feeling was that rim from the sock liner. I didn't know which one it was going to be.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure it out too, because for me, it wasn't something immediate. I only felt it after I'd been on my feet for quite a while.
Sure.
And it would be like, it had to be over 10 miles for me to notice it. And I really don't know, but the upper does breathe super well. I mean, I did a 10-mile run, I think, in like 98-degree weather, and it was just fine.
Sweet.
And like, yeah. So overall, yeah, I was super pleased. I've been trying to figure that out. Yeah, whether it's the liner or that extension on the counter, I'm not 100% sure.
Slightly off topic, but
the navicular region.
Yep. Sorry, Dave, didn't mean to almost cut you off. The tongue is also locked in. It feels like a sock that the tongue is not going to shift around on people. It is connected down to the midsole, so it is really comfortable. And for those of you who do like running sockless, I have had zero issue running in these. So I have taken those on several miles by now and has not bothered me at all. So be careful if you haven't done that before, but it's been, especially the heel collar is very comfortable against skin.
What's your or people's inspiration for running sockless? I've never once thought, I really want to run sockless today.
You know, ironically, the first time I did run sockless, it was a horrible experience. It was in college, and I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't really run cross country in high school. And one of the upperclassmen was like, "Yeah, I always run with my cross country spikes without socks." And so I did it in a white pair of cross country flats, and they turned red very quickly.
Oh no!
But however, for whatever reason, because maybe I'm an idiot, I kept testing it out. And I don't know. It's just sometimes just having a little less. It's a little less burn on the foot. I don't have a good explanation, but especially those in the triathlon world, can speak to this a lot better than I can, especially being able to transition. So that is one area.
That's true.
Yeah, that makes sense. What I do doesn't make any sense. I'm just like, I wonder if I can do this without socks.
I felt like I could feel the ground a little better, but I stopped doing it pretty quickly. Like in high school, there was an old track spike called the Brooks Wire, and I would run in the it was awesome. Spike.
Yeah.
And I would run in the Brooks Wire sockless with no problems. And then I went to college and I got the Adidas Avantis, and it was a phenomenal spike, but I tried to run a 5K sockless in it, and yeah, same thing. Thankfully, the shoe was already red.
Yeah, that was good.
But it stained red on the red. So
maybe there's something to be said. You know, you have the Meta Racer that has kind of that airflow pocket in the front. Right, yeah, so they're like, if you cool the foot, you can have a lower whatever expenditure. Maybe that's part of it too.
It's subconscious, but I didn't think that deeply. Anyway,
you think about what you put on your feet. You don't think about what you don't put on your feet.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. Cool. All right. Let's move into, I think, the most exciting part of this shoe.
Yeah.
The ride. Let's kind of combine ride with stability. Let's talk about both those together.
All right, I'll jump in there. That again, their foam is awesome as usual. It's not. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not the same as the Panthea. So they're Nathan.
No, the same as the Forever Floatride Energy.
Right. So it's the energy foam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is great. There's more of it than any of the other shoes, so it's kind of a little bit more on that trainer borderline, almost getting to that maximalist level, but more of a traditional trainer. They did something very different with this shoe, and they beveled out the heel and actually put a lot of research into figuring out. So there's about a 17-degree heel, if I remember Casey saying that correctly. That'll vary, obviously, depending on sizing and stuff like that. But it's super smooth. I'm very sensitive to these things because I'm a pretty significant heel striker. So I love the Panthea, but this can get a little bit much for me at times. Although I'm going to wear it down and see what happens. This was super smooth, and I saw this and I was like, hey, there looks like there's also like a posterior heel flare. Even though they beveled it, it didn't cause any issues. And honestly, the way that they set it up and the angle at which they set it up, this provides this super smooth ride. The toe spring is also really well done. So you got like a mild rocker effect without being extreme. And there's still some good flexibility in the sole too. So the ride is really smooth, and it's really a long distance trainer. It can handle workouts, and I think like long runs or like tempos are fine, but it's really a long distance trainer. And I was really surprised how smooth it was and how long I could keep going in this shoe. And the other thing is it's stable. I thought this was going to be unstable. I'm looking at the foam, I'm looking at kind of the setup, and I'm like, that's, it's going to be kind of a narrower last. It's not going to be safe. I've had no issues. It felt like I didn't notice it was there. So the bevel, the way it's set up, I think part of the groove might help just a little bit. The way that the counter is set up, it's a surprisingly stable shoe, and I'm very impressed by it.
Yeah, I loved the ride of the shoe. Just looking at this bevel too. I mean, a simple test you can kind of do when you're looking at shoes and the kind of bevels they have is, I wish I could put it flat on my table so you could see it, but I can't. But what I'm trying to do here is looking at what's the lowest point of the bevel,
right? And
does that lowest point sit underneath the heel bone, the calcaneus, or is it posterior or behind it? Because if it's behind it, that's where you're going to get the effect of the posterior heel flare, where it's going to increase some of those torques around the ankle that you have to control. So, you look at as a shoe like this, oh my goodness, the heel sticks way back out, but that bevel, the lowest point is below the foot. So you're in good shape there. They did a great job with that. And I love the Forever Floatride Energy version 1, like version 2 better. And I like this shoe even more. I think if I was to compare the two in terms of kind of what utilization, what would I use them for? Again, this one I just took for 18 miles yesterday. I honestly I can't just contribute it to the shoe only. Obviously, I'm not like controlling variables, but my legs felt great, and I've been having, on average, higher mileage over the last 3 weeks. Anyway, so I started the run tired, but I felt really good through the whole run. The shoe felt like it had plenty more, underneath it to keep going. But like Matt said, this for me would be the long distance trainer, but can also handle short runs. Like you don't need to, take this thing 18 miles to make this shoe worth it. You can take it 5-10 miles, and it can, compared to the Forever Floatride Energy, it's a little bit heavier, but it's only 8.6 ounces for me in my size 9. That's still super light. So, for people who are like, I want to run pretty fast. I want to run a faster marathon. I don't know if I need to buy a racing shoe. Like, this is a shoe that's going to run a good marathon for you. Might be the shoe that I run my quote virtual marathon this fall, and I might end up just taking this one out, depending on especially if I run it through our trails in town here. So this just longer utilization, whereas the Floatride Energy can do, those, daily miles, can also be a little bit faster, but it also, I always found it flattened out around like 13 to 15 for me. I didn't want to bring them further. Whereas this one, like I said, I did 18. I plan on bringing it for some longer runs too, as I keep my training going. This thing's going to be just fine.
Yeah. And I agree with everything you guys both said. So I'll probably keep my section a little short on this one. But I like that we're combining ride and stability, because I think they're so intertwined, especially in this model, because stability doesn't just mean post it, lock something out, and prevent motion. This actually facilitates motion in a linear pattern and a fluid way. And so my main thing looking at the ride, it's like a slight rocker, like you said, but it's not so exaggerated to the point where you feel like you're falling off of it in any situation. You can walk around in it and you can run in it. I think that, we talked about it earlier, like that midfoot section for me probably would be like the area where I'm a little hesitant on as far as stability goes. But everything else was super good. The heel was crazy stable, super fluid. I think that, what do we call this here, like a groove?
Yeah.
That guides through. I don't know if there was some kind of force collapse or torque, like alteration in terms of landing and transferring, but it made the drop less noticeable, and it did make that midfoot transition nicer. And then you have that slight toe off on the toe spring there, and it's just fluid, and it just feels so good when you're running on either fatigued legs or easy legs or fast, and it's just very smooth and rhythmic, and it's not necessarily aggressive in any way, but it's just very smooth. That's probably the word I would use.
I think in terms of like the speed, the way that this performed for me on tempo runs is similar kind of to how the Rincon did, where it didn't like push me forward, like it wasn't like go faster, but it kept up with anything. It didn't feel like it was weighing me back. The weight is really well distributed. It's a light foam, and I guess I should say this. In my experience, Floatride Energy foam feels better at mile 25 than it does at 0. Like it takes some time for it to feel its best. It gets a little bit softer because it starts pretty, I don't know, it starts kind of firm and then really softens up and gets bouncier by the time you get in a little bit.
I think, yeah, I would definitely agree that it feels better as you keep going. So the shoe kind of has to warm up with you a little bit. It's still a great ride warming up. But to echo on Nathan's point, I think this is a great marathon shoe for a lot of people because not everybody's going to be handle the super aggressive racing flats that are out there right now. Even the really cushioned ones, there's a lot of components to those racing shoes that really are not appropriate for a large portion of the population. And so you guys need to, educate yourselves and know that just because there's some marketing coming at you doesn't mean the shoe's appropriate for you, right? Every shoe's a tool and you're going to match it to you. I still think that this ride, and I'm not, is really conducive to a nice, smooth, good mechanics that I think are just going to work for a variety of people. And you don't have to have the lightest possible shoe to go a marathon distance. Sometimes you need a little bit more cushion. There is, there's some evidence to suggest that yes, for every 100 grams lighter, you save 1% efficiency, but there is a turnaround point where all of a sudden that starts going the other way if the shoe's too light. And this shoe is really meant to go long, and I think it is lighter weight. It's 8.6 ounces. Back in the day, that was super light for a racing flat. So even today's standards, this is a lightweight trainer. It's got enough cushion to be a trainer, but it's light enough to take faster miles. So for those, again, looking for a long distance or marathon shoe for the masses, I think this is well worth looking into. And again, super impressed with the bevel, the effort that was put into this, even the durability, right? If we're going to talk about durability next, I have close to 100 miles on these, and I have barely been able to make a dent in the sole. And that's pretty significant.
Matt, I've said this before, but Matt has sent a guy in our clinic his old shoes that have like 40 miles on them, and you can see he's exposed EVA underneath because he just ripped through them. So you have 100, you said 100 miles.
Yeah, I've got I think it's like 98 miles on these right now to be like totally accurate. But yeah, like I'm barely seeing, and the lugs are still there. These actually do fairly decent on well-groomed trails, by the way. I wouldn't like not aggressive stuff, but yeah, again, I'm really impressed with the durability of these two. And the foam, this stuff lasts forever, right? You want to talk about people are getting excited about super foams? This is one of them. Like this it's really good. The energy foam is awesome.
David, you got anything on durability?
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, everything that Matt just said. I mean, the foam is crazy durable. It's just going to keep going, and it might even get better as you go. It's got some bounce to it. It does start a little firm. I agree with Nathan, but once you break it in over a couple miles, I mean, it's delightful. Like it's really nice. And then the outsole, I mean, I don't, destroy my shoes, but I have a little over 40 on mine, and I don't even think I've scratched it. Nothing even cosmetic. It looks brand new. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, so would you guys say, in terms of areas of improvement for this shoe, both you guys talked about the fit maybe being a little bit, true to size, but maybe a little short. So would that be kind of the area of improvement you'd dial in on?
Yeah, I would dial in that forefoot just a little bit. It works well. It's great. It again, like the foam, it feels better the longer you go, but I would just see if you can dial that in a little bit. But I also have a really sensitive forefoot, so that might just be me. David, what do you think?
You know what? I think it might be that liner you were talking about. I've been trying to figure it out this entire time. And well, because I had the same thing in the Panthea. Like it was less so in the Panthea, but I'm wondering.
It's
Yeah,
got the same mesh that attaches that to that tongue.
yeah. So that's, if anything, that's more like the anterior, the front of like the midfoot beginning to become forefoot region. You know, right in there, and that might be where I was getting that little bit of pressure in there. But I don't know if that necessarily is just me. Like that might just be me, and then everyone else is fine. But yeah, but that also kind of funnels into the toe box. So maybe if they can refine the fit in the forefoot and the midfoot to forefoot transition, maybe that those small little touches might make it even more pleasurable. It's already a pretty good upper overall.
I was gonna say I loved the upper, so I was like, don't change it a lot, you know. But that's obviously every foot is different. So for me, it was perfect. I'd say the one thing for me that I kind of talked about, that rim of cushion behind the heel in the counter here, just smoothing that out a little bit, maybe making it a little bit less aggressive or extending down to the heel, just that I just could feel that transition in the beginning. But again, it didn't bother me when I'm running, so.
And for those who are concerned, don't worry. We have promises from Casey, our Reebok contact, that they're not going to make crazy changes. They will make small adjustments to try to keep people on board. So don't worry. Yeah. They won't change your favorite shoe.
I think the shoe that people have probably run in most when it comes to Reebok is the original Forever Floatride Energy shoe. Yeah. One of the problems that I know I had with it, my sister has had with it, is that the heel counter dug into the Achilles and actually created some issues from a rubbing standpoint. Version 2 fixed that. David just held it up, where they kind of created that, I don't know, elf ear or whatever people want to call it. They have the same idea here, where this isn't going to contact the Achilles at all, just kind of pulls away. But I know Matt's sensitive to the Achilles too.
Yep. So
just a really sensitive guy.
I am sensitive.
It's great. So what else do you guys got? Any other big things you want to hit on this shoe? Highlights?
Touched on it. Other than I do like this. This seems to, we found out this is just an EVA component to this, and that seems to stabilize the heel really well. Also provides some extra durability, and the fact that there's no nubs here actually makes this landing a little bit smoother. So I think that was actually a really good call, and I was very curious what that was, but just an
interesting. Talking that stripe in the back, kind of down through the sole. Yep. Yeah, it's awesome. This, I mean, I think you guys both have said this, but this is in the contention for one of the best shoes this year, at least in the training category, if not beyond. It's very versatile, offers a lot, can really go the distance. It's super light for that kind of category of shoe. For the protective shoes, you're looking at like the Triumph 18 coming out, that just came out. You're looking at Wave Sky. A lot of these premium trainers, they're heavier and they're running 150, 160. This is coming in at 130. And it's 8.6 ounces, but for me had just as much protection underneath for those long runs.
Agreed.
Definitely. And I'll just give Reebok some kudos for just being super aesthetic and making good looking shoes. I mean,
there's a red colorway that all of us are drooling over, so we'll see if we get a chance to compare those.
Yeah, I might have to buy it. Totally. Well, awesome. If you guys don't have any other thoughts, we'll kind of wrap it up here. If you want to hear if this shoe were a blank, what would it be and why, you'll have to go back to our conversation with Casey. We compared it to an Office episode, or The Office character, as well as Friends. As well as Friends. So you can go back and check that out. But thanks for listening. These are our thoughts on putting the Reebok Symmetros on your feet. please subscribe to our podcast as well as our YouTube channel. Follow us on our media channels. All that stuff helps support the work that we're doing. And we just love the opportunity to put out content for people to think more about what you're putting on your feet and why. And we look forward to doing more in our next episode.